happy that some kind of health care bill was passed, but it doesn't even begin to address the real problems that people have in this country. Mental health care. The prison system serves as a receptacle for those who are unable to find poor people who are unable to find treatment for mental and emotional disorders. So in a sense, you might say that the abolitionist movement, the prison abolitionist movement, is a movement for a better world, for a different society, for a world that doesn't need to depend on prisons because the kinds of institutions that that serve people's needs will be available. And in this sense, we have to return to the notion of abolition democracy. There were those who were struggling to simply get rid of freedom. There were those who were struggling to simply get rid of prisons and assuming that freedom would be the negation of slavery. There were those who were struggling to simply get rid of slavery, assuming that freedom would be the negation of slavery. But there were those who recognized that there could be no freedom without economic equality, without political equality, without educational institutions. And even though we are under the impression that we abolished slavery, we're still living with those vestiges, the lack of an educational system that serves all people, regardless of their economic background, the lack of a health care system, lack of access to housing. And this is in large part the role that the prison has played. It has become a receptacle for those who have not been able to find a place in society. And this is true not only in the U.S., but literally all over the world. This is why we're experiencing an expansion of the prison system in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. And this is very much connected to the rise in global capitalism.
Angela,
so prison abolition is about building a new world.
Angela Davis, I wanted to ask you about building a new world and ask you about your thoughts on the eve of the election of President Obama, what you were thinking, the hopes you had at the time, and now 2 years later, where we stand today. I mean, November 4th, 2008, this remarkable moment, an African-American man elected in a land with a legacy of slavery, you know, the land of Frederick Douglass, where we came from then and where we are today. Professor Davis.
Well, of course, initially, few people believed that a figure like Barack Obama could ever be elected to the presidency of the United States. And because there were those who persisted, and, you know, largely young people who helped to build this movement to elect Barack Obama, making use of, you know, all of the new technologies of communication. And so on that day, November 4th, 2008, when Obama was elected, this was a world historical event. People celebrated literally all over the world, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in South America, in the Caribbean, in the U.S. I was in Oakland, and there was literally dancing in the street. I don't remember any other moment that can compare to that collective euphoria that gripped people all over the world. Now, here we are 2 years later, and many people are treating this as if it were business as usual. As a matter of fact, many people are dissatisfied with the Obama administration because they fail to fulfill all of our dreams. And, one of the points that I frequently make is that we have to beware of our tendency here in this country to look for messiahs and to project our own possible potential power onto others. What really disturbs me is that we have failed. Well, of course, I'm dissatisfied with many of the things that Obama has done. The war in Afghanistan needs to end right now. The health care bill could have been much stronger than it turned out to be. There are many issues about which we can be critical of Obama, but at the same time, I think we need to be critical of ourselves for not generating the kind of mass pressure to compel the Obama administration to move in a more progressive direction, remembering that the election was in large part, primarily the result of just such a mass movement that was created by ordinary people all over the country.
That issue of movements versus a person, that certainly brings us back to Frederick Douglass. While such a significant person within the abolition movement, needing that movement to change America. And where you see movements today, and also the power of money. We're just about to come into another election day, midterm elections, with money drowning politics now, unleashed throughout the United States. Also the money and the power of the prison lobby in this country, how prisons stay not because of the logic of prisons necessarily, but because now they are big business and the privatization of prisons. Can you talk about how movements are affected by money and the power of the corporation today, how you think movements can take on this corporate money?
Well, of course, it is far more difficult than it has ever been to engage in and move successfully in the direction of progressive change. And this has to do with the fact that capitalism has really consolidated its influence on so many levels. And as you pointed out, privatization, not only privatization of prisons, but privatization of educations. I think of, looking for Superman and the move away from struggling for a public education system, which is what we need, that will satisfy the needs of all the people. So privatization, corporatization, global capitalism. But again, I don't think that we can assume that we are entirely powerless if we have no access to that money.
We have 15
again,
seconds.
I would return to the election of Barack Obama. Barack Obama was elected despite that kind of a lobby, despite the power of money. And so we have to continue the campaign for a better world, drawing upon all of our resources.
Angela Davis, I want to thank you very much for being with us. We didn't have enough time. You can go to our website at democracynow.org.
Thank you very much,
I'm Amy
Amy.
Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.